I've been trying to breathe underwater.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon, and welcome to the show, y'all. Listen to me, y'all. Let me tell you something about, a lot of people that are in prison, and before they get out of prison, they hatch these ideas of how they want to live their life and all this and that, right? And you got a lot of people, no matter what they say, that before they get out, they decide, even before they go for parole, for in some cases, they decide that they're not going to stop living the criminal lifestyle. So they just got to go through the process of convincing the parole board to let them out and continue to make it look as if they are the model inmate and they have reformed their behavior and all of these different types of things, right? But nothing could be further from the truth for a lot of these guys. And let me give you a story about this guy named Chris that before he even left, he decided he wasn't going to stop living the criminal lifestyle. Now listen here. Chris had been locked up for 8 years for various different things, selling drugs, robbery, thefts, different things like that, right? But he had a great attorney that somehow or another was able to get his time ran concurrent, meaning that he might have 3 or 4 felony convictions with various different sentences, time put on each one of those sentences. But when they ran those sentences together, the maximum sentence that he had was 8 years. So it resulted in him just serving 8 years, right, before he was eligible for parole. You see what I'm saying? Now, here's the situation with Chris, though. Chris had decided under no circumstances, right now anyway, in this point in his life, that he wanted to stop living the criminal lifestyle. So Chris was unlike a lot of other dudes in here, right? He was honest about his situation with a few people, mainly his cellie. And his cellie was named Stanley, right? And Stanley had been locked up way longer than Chris. And he had a few more years to go, but he had a date. He had a date. And he was one of those individuals that it didn't matter how long he had been locked up. He had decided that this is who he was. This is what he wanted to do. Now, Chris knew that Stanley was on that. He was about that life, as they say, right? So one night, when they were in the cell, chilling right and all this and that, looking at TV and all that kind of stuff, Stanley asked Chris, what was his plans? What did he want to do with his life if he made parole? Because he was getting ready to go for parole in a couple of weeks. And he saw Chris running around the compound getting recommendations from the different officers and the different staff people that work here that said that this man, in their opinion, had demonstrated that he had changed his ways and he was going to do great out there. He was going to contribute to society. He'd be an asset to his community. All of these different types of things, right? So Chris said, man, if I could be honest with you, I'm going to just tell you, man, I ain't thinking about none of that. I'm finna get out and get mine. Simple as that. Yeah, I'm going to get a job because that's what I have to do to be able to stay out on parole. But I'm gonna get my money. However I gotta get it. You know what I'm saying? On the side, right? I'm gonna go to work, but I'm gonna get my money. Stanley told him, he said, man, I respect that. I respect that because you committed. Now listen to what I'm saying. Now Stanley told him he respected what he just said because he was committed to the lifestyle. He didn't say that I respect what you're saying because you're being honest about what you're going to do when you get out. Because a lot of people lie about what they're going to do when they get out. They say they're not going to do nothing and they're into it. You feel what I'm saying? But Stanley respected the fact that Chris was committed to the lifestyle because he was committed to the lifestyle. You see what I'm saying? So now Chris and Stanley, they're sitting there talking. So Chris asked me, he said, man, what is it that I can do to avoid coming back? Now, this is important because a lot of people sit in here and they try to figure out a right way to do wrong, which I know it ain't no right way to do wrong, but a lot of people try to figure out a right way to do wrong. And based on all the different individuals that have been in and out of prison and the things that they've been through, people, they kind of like take from those examples and try to build, okay, if you do this here, you do this here, you do this here, then you won't come back to prison, right? Never taking into account that if you don't want to come back to prison, then don't break the law. Never taking that into account. That don't come up on the paper when they sitting down trying to write out all these ideas on how to get away with whatever they're going to be trying to get away with, right? So here's the thing. Stanley kept it way more realer with him than anybody that I've ever heard that was involved in the game. Anybody that I've ever heard involved in the game. Because here's what Stanley told him. Stanley told him, so look here, bro. You want to stay out? you better get you a get out of jail free card. What is a get out of jail free card? A get out of jail free card, I'm telling y'all, listen to what I'm trying to tell y'all now. A get out of jail free card is something that you can use that will be of value to the police when you get caught. Ain't no if, it's when you get caught, because you're going to get caught. Whatever it is you're doing, you better have something that is of value for the police when they get you. And Stanley told him, look, forget all this stuff about snitching. Forget all this stuff about the code. Forget all this stuff about, man, look here, I ain't about this, I ain't about that. The name of the game is survival. And that's what he wanted to impart on Chris. Very dangerous, but that's what it was. He told him what it was. And when I say he kept it real with him, he broke the game down. Forget all that other stuff. He broke the game down. You better be of value to the police when they catch you, because if you not, you coming back. The ones that don't come back fall into one of two categories. The ones that's committing crime and keep the get out of jail free card, or the ones that have changed their life. Now, talk to me now, because ain't nobody getting away with it. I don't care what they say. Yeah, you might get away with it for a while. You might get away with it for years. But if you don't stop, the sand in the hourglass is going to run out and your butt going to end up back in the penitentiary talking about, man, somebody told on me, somebody did this, somebody did that. Boy, I was living a good life. I went to the Super Bowl. I did this, I did that. You're going to be saying all of that kind of stuff in here to people that don't want to hear because they're in here with you. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Now, here's the thing. So Chris asked, he said, man, how do I do that? How do I get me a get out of jail free card, something I can put in my pocket and have ready when the time comes? He said, look, I'm going to give you the game, man. I'm finna give you something that I'm going to use when I get out. So Chris looked at him. He said, well, what is it? Tell me, man. Come on, tell me. He said, man, listen. I done broke this game down, and what I'm finna give you ain't nobody got. I ain't seen nobody use this, man. So don't mess this up. Because Stanley wants to be able to use this when he gets out. So he tell him, he said, look, the main place where you're going to always be able to keep and get a get out of jail free card is in the penitentiary. So Chris looked at him real crazy, talking about, wait a minute, how am I going to do that if I'm out there? Now see, here's another part of the game too. See, Stanley was manipulating the playing field because he wanted to put himself in the game too and make himself more relevant. You feel me? Plus get him a little bread. Like I told you, everybody in the penitentiary always got to hustle. If you don't understand that, then you don't understand what's going on in here. Listen to me now. Listen to me. If you in the dirt, you getting dirty. The only option to not getting dirty is stay out of the dirt. It's as simple as that. But here's the thing. This is what was going on. Stanley told him, he said, look, man, you send that dope back up here in the penitentiary. I'm going to take care of it for you. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to have some of these other dudes moving it for us, getting us that bread. But while they're doing that, we're going to make sure and stockpile enough information about them, their family, the people on the streets that we pick it up from, the people on the streets that you drop off the money to. We're going to build a portfolio on every one of these individuals. It's a snitch packet. You understand? We're going to build a portfolio on every one of these individuals. And when the time comes, when you get caught, this is how Stanley hit me. When the time comes, when you get caught, you turn that over to the police and tell them, look, I can tell you how they running drugs in and up out of the penitentiary. Leaving out the fact that you mainly involved. See, this Stanley don't want him to focus on that. He don't want him to focus on that because he manipulating too. Leaving out that Chris is the main player in the game. You just giving up the workers. See, because Stanley want to be involved in the game too. He want to get his bread. You understand what I'm saying? Now, here's another caveat to the story. If Chris is the main player, then he running the ring, right? That's obvious, don't you think? But here's what happens when you gloss over what's really going on. You ain't paying attention to, because see, when you evaluating a plan, right, and you plotting and strategizing, you have to keep a clear head. You can't get caught up in all the oohs and the ahs that's going on, right? When you're watching a basketball game, you know how you're watching a basketball game, Steph Curry shoot that three, but oh man, you get caught up in all that. And what you really miss is when he was running on that baseline back and forth and running off that pick, you know what I'm saying? And then when Draymond Green set that pick for him, you missed the beauty of the whole process that brought him to that one spot that freed him up just a little bit to shoot that three. So you got to focus on the process. And see, Stanley wasn't focusing on Chris wasn't focusing on what Stanley was saying. Now, he wasn't focusing on that. He was focusing on the three-point shot, the get out of jail free card. Because see, that get out of jail free card included him in it. See, when Stanley said, you're going to give up the information on them, he also had to understand, he should have anyway, that you're going to give up the information on yourself as well. But see, here's the thing. Here's how Stanley, the old head, manipulated the scene and had Chris all caught up in the three-point shot. Look here. You get out. Listen to me now. Listen. This is how it go. You get out. You hustling. You getting that bread. Right? You doing whatever you doing out there. You sending some dope back in the penitentiary where everybody's hungry. Everybody's trying to survive the environment. Everybody's trying to do what they got to do, right? And contributing to the economy, the prison economy, right? And all you're doing is making sure that you got something on every one of them so when you get caught, they go down. They already in the penitentiary. And then you're not even focusing on when they ask you, well, how are they getting the drugs? See, Stanley got him convinced that he needed to send the drugs in. See, if Chris would have been paying attention to the process and not the three-point shot, he would have recognized what? He would have recognized that he needed to make sure and establish some kind of a relationship with somebody in the penitentiary that had somebody on the outside of the penitentiary that could send him to him, and he just acted as a middleman so he could take his stuff out of it whenever he needed to do that. You see what I'm saying? But that's not what he was focused on, because it's one thing that goes on with people in the streets. Listen to me, I'm going to tell you something else. You got to be catching all of this now. I'm telling you. Another thing that goes on with a lot of people in the streets in the criminal world is that they are insecure and selfish. They don't trust too many people. So they want to be able to control what's going on. You feel me? They want to be able to control it because it makes them feel good. It's just like when they, you know what I'm saying, you're getting high, you smoke your joint, you'd be like, oh man, that's some of that good right there. But that's how people are in the game. They want to feel good about what they're doing that's wrong, and they want to control it. How many people that you know that get high, I'm talking about really get high, right, will share their last piece of work with you, that last piece of dope? How many of them will really share that with you? They're going to stuff that in their pocket, they're going to sneak around the corner, and then they're going to get high. They're not going to share that with you. And that's how the game is. Chris so focused on the three-point shot, he wasn't focused on the process, so he's trying to make sure that he's controlling this, he's getting this information. You understand what I'm saying? And not focusing that Stanley's manipulating and using him, because Stanley needs somebody to send him something back up in here. And Stanley, truth be told, the whole flim-flam was about when he gets caught. Because he's been doing this stuff for years. And he saw that Chris was gullible and naive. So you sit down with somebody in the penitentiary, don't forget that he got an angle. Chris forgot that. Stanley had an agenda. Let me show this young man how to make sure to stay out the penitentiary at the same time. Because that's what everybody that gets out of the penitentiary want. They want to stay out. They want to stay out, but most of them don't want to quit what they're doing. And if you can present them with an idea or a plan that will keep them on the streets while they can do whatever they want to do without being responsible and taking accountability for what they do, most of them will do it. Until they realize that they've been flim-flam. See, here's the thing. Chris out on the streets. He's shaking it. He done got out. He done bought everything Stanley said, hook, line, and sinker. Now he's on the town. He moving that pack, making sure it gets back up in the penitentiary. See, Stanley ain't going to visit. Everybody in his family done cut him off. He been in the penitentiary so long and been doing flim-flam and everybody. He done burnt almost every bridge he had. That's how he gets down. He done burnt every bridge. If you not of use to him, then ain't nothing. If he can't use you, ain't nothing. If you won't let him use you, ain't nothing. We got people in here like that. And they're very mannerable. Talk to you like your brother. They'll come up and greet you. What's up, bro? They'll do all of that. How your family doing? They want to know everything about you, not because they care about you, because they want to use that as a manipulation tool. Hit him in the head with the hammer. I got him. I don't know why he thought he could trust me. That's the business. Now, Stanley got Chris out here moving it. Chris out there doing what he doing. Because the truth of the matter is this. Chris ain't no dope boy. He might have sold some dope here and there, whatever, but Chris get off on robbing. He get off on that. He likes that adrenaline rush. He likes that. He likes that. But at the same time, he got to find a way to stay out. Stanley gave it to him. So Chris he hitting his licks, he getting his money, he getting the dope on the side, he's stacking it up, and he's sending it back up in there with every person that Stanley done sent his way. Because when Stanley sent people his way, they already got a mule that's going to bring it back. All Chris got to do is drop it off, pick up the money, vice versa. Make sure Stanley got his money, put it on his books, or send it to wherever he wanted sent. Because Stanley don't trust nobody. Now, when he's shaking it like that, he keep moving. But see, now, after about 6 months, Chris been on the town. Now everybody's starting to realize, okay, he back. He robbing again. He ain't learned nothing. Family looking at him like, boy, we hearing your name. You need to stop. Get a job. Do this, do that. I got a job. Well, you're not going. The folks is calling, asking, are you coming to work today? They're doing all this and doing all that. Now the PO is dropping by. Now he don't want to meet the PO because he's scared the PO going to violate him. Wait a minute. Get out of jail free card time. Get out of jail free card. He's waiting to be arrested. He's waiting for that. And he's ready to give up that information. But during all this time that he done turned everything sour, Stanley, one move in ahead of him, right? Just like at chess. When you get one move behind in chess, look here, man. It's just about over for you. You better find a way to get back up or either break it even. But a lot of people don't understand the game of chess. All it takes is one pawn to become a queen. That one move that I get ahead on you is that pawn. After that, I'm gonna swap it. I'm gonna swap everything out and get down to that one pawn, and I'm gonna push it all the way to the king's row. You understand? And get that girl. And when I turn into that girl, I'm gonna pop, 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 checkmate you. See, that's what Stanley doing. Let me tell you how he was able to do that. Chris is letting him know over the phone when he called and talked to him everything that done went wrong. Everything. So Stanley, being the shiesty con artist that he is, he get to thinking, oh, okay. I see what's going on. That's what's up. This, that, and the third. Now, because he's been in the game so long, he don't trust nobody either. He don't trust nobody. Because he be in the game. If you look here, this is what establishes trust. Doing something for somebody, not expecting anything back, not having an agenda. You understand? You're doing it because it's the right thing to do it because it's out of the kindness of your heart, right? Now, here's what establishes, in some situations, somebody that you can't trust. Somebody doing something with an agenda, right? Not doing it for the right reasons, doing it because you're going to benefit from it in a negative way. It don't matter. You just want your bread. But you know or you believe that if they ever figure out that I'm conning, they're going to tell on me first or they're going to hit me first. So that has you always paranoid. Now you need to know everything that the person is doing. You need to hear every conversation. You asking them all kind of questions, not about them, but about what they're doing. So you can keep up with what they're doing so that when the time comes, you can make sure that you stay one move ahead of them. And that's what Stanley was on. But see, Chris is thinking that Stanley is talking to him because he cares about him. He wants the best thing for him. And he's trying to help him stay out. But see, now Stanley, he's worried if Chris, when he give up the business, is he going to give up him? Is he going to stick to the script and just give up the dudes in the penitentiary? But see, Stanley know one thing. Stanley know one thing. Because Chris been to the penitentiary before, if the information ain't good enough, really good, they don't care nothing about no ounce here, ounce there going in and out the penitentiary. It's the cost of doing business. That's the cost of doing business. But if it's not really good, if you're not giving up a source, something major like that, or a drug ring, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go back to prison. You might not go for a long time, but you're going to go back. They'll reduce your sentence. See, Chris is not thinking like that because he's drank the Kool-Aid that Stan is giving him. This is how you stay out. No, not so. So here's what happens. They catch Chris. He's up at the stoplight. He stopped. Police pull up behind and run the tag. Oh, they looking for him. He dipping and dodging. So he look in his rear view. He see him. He pull out. Police hit the lights. Whoop, whoop. Pull over. He see the police on the little walkie-talkie. He assumes that the police is calling for backup. Yep, this is true. When they know that they're looking for somebody that's a stick-up kid, they figure that you're armed and dangerous. You done already crossed all the lines, parolee with a weapon. Felon with a weapon. So he pulls over. He think he going to be able to talk his way out of it. So when he got him on the side, because like I said, Chris is ready for this. He's ready for this because he thinks he's going to be able to talk his way out with the DA. They lock him back up. He tell his lawyer, look, I got something I want to trade to the DA. He tells the lawyer. The lawyer listens to him and he tells him, I know of people, in the penitentiary that's been moving drugs from the street to the penitentiary. Can that help me? The lawyer says, sure. I'm pretty sure the DA will be interested in that, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just as much as a threat on the outside as it is on the inside. So the lawyer takes it to the DA. The DA said, yeah, sure, we can work out something. He didn't say he's going to let him go. He said, we can work out something. So he goes back and he tells Chris, look, the DA said we can work out something, get you a reduced sentence. Chris said, no, I don't want to go back to prison. The lawyer tells him, yeah, you're going back to prison, but we're going to get you some time off for this. We get you some time off. When you go for parole, they won't protest, they'll let you out. Chris don't want to hear that. So now he's thinking, man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know anything else. I don't know anything else. He built his whole plan based off of what Stanley told him. Built his whole plan off of what Stanley told him. So now he's got to make a decision. Do I give them this information or do I keep it? Because if I give them this information and I go back to prison and they find out that I told it, it's going to be some long nights. It's going to be some long nights, man. So Chris is sitting back in that cell at the jail and he's contemplating his next move. But he knows he's a move behind in the game. He's a whole move behind in the game. What does he do? What do you think he's going to do? Well, I'm going to tell you what he's going to do. I'm going to tell you what he's going to do. He's going to try to convince the DA that he can be of use to him on the streets. Just don't send him back to prison. No dice. You're going back to prison. See, let me tell you why this is a benefit to the DA. Because you've already showed your hand. You've already showed your hand. And the DA's job is to do what? If they're doing it how they're supposed to do it, their job is to protect the public. Now, you got information, sure, but you've been out here robbing. You've been out here robbing, putting guns in people's faces. Even though they're street people, you're still a threat. Because if you're robbing people like that, then who knows when you might decide to rob somebody at the bank or rob somebody at the store. Who knows? You can only get high, that adrenaline rush, for so long off of what you're doing. Now you're going to have to amp it up. It's just like somebody that start smoking weed. They go to cocaine, they go to heroin, they go to meth. You graduate. So now, Chris is caught in a dilemma. I can't go back to the penitentiary and get labeled a rat. So what do I do? What do I do? He tell the DA to run it. I ain't going to tell you. I ain't got nothing to tell. His lawyer is pissed because he'll spend all his time working on this deal, and now Chris don't want to accept the deal because he got to go back to prison. And he tells his lawyer why, and his lawyer understands, but his lawyer's still convinced, look, they can put you in protective custody, but Chris is telling him it don't work like you think it works. If I go to protective custody, somebody can come into protective custody and do something to me. Or I might not even go to protective custody. They might not put me in protective custody. And if they do put me in protective custody, I don't want to spend my time back in the back like that. The police don't understand that. The lawyers don't understand it. They don't understand what that means when you spend your sentence in protective custody. I don't think any of you out there can understand what that means. You're isolated from the compound, general population. You don't get to do all the things that everybody else is doing, whether they're right or wrong. And anything that you do is very, very scrutinized. Everything is limited. Everything is why? Because they want to make sure you don't die. You've officially asked for protection, and they're going to protect you, even if that means restricting your movement. And he don't want to live like that because he don't want to live right. See, part of being responsible and accountable is learning to restrict and monitor your own self. You don't need nobody to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. That's a part of being accountable and responsible. That's part of being an adult. Be a grown man about this thing, or a grown woman, whichever the case. So Chris ends up back in jail, back in the penitentiary. Him and Stanley. Now, Stanley's talking to him. They're not sellers this time. Stanley's talking to him and trying to tell him, look, you got it wrong. You didn't do everything I told you to do. But Chris has figured it out. He's figured it out. He figured out he got played. He figured out that he got played. See, Stanley used him so he could eat. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? You got people in here that'll convince you that they got the answer. And all you got to do is get it back to them in here so they can eat. They're just using you. They don't care about you or your freedom. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to